Today is February the 14th, Monday. Welcome to the Aransas Pass ISD School Board meeting. I'd like to declare we have a quorum of 4 people. Mrs. Butler, could you lead us in the pledge? And Mr. Rector, could you lead us in invocation? Could you please stand, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Let us pray. Our Father and our God, we come thanking you for the blessings you have given us. We pray for the well-being and the safety of our students and our staff. We pray, Lord, that you have mercy upon us as we continue to go through this pandemic. We believe in your word when you said you will never leave us or forsake us, so we know you are by our side. We pray for this meeting that we will accomplish the things that you will allow us to this evening. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. It's for his sake we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Butler. Mr. Director, next public testimony. Okay, nobody signed up for public testimony. Next is district recognitions. Parents and Employee of the month of February 2022. Mrs. Cook.
Yes, as always, we like to recognize our Panthers and Employees of the Month, all their great work that they're doing, and we'll show you who our recipients are with our video as we continue to do that, hopefully getting back one day to having them actually come to our board meetings. Congratulations to all of them.
Okay, before we got, next thing on the agenda is superintendent report, but before that time, I'd like to move up Mr. Linebarger, our attorney for property taxes, to this point. If nobody on the board has any objection to that, so he doesn't have to stay towards the end of the meeting to do so, to give us that. So, and it's items 7A, B, C, and D on the agenda, so we're just moving that up. Thank you.
Yes, would you like for me to go through them individually or just as a group?
Does anybody want to the group?
Group's fine.
Group's fine.
I can, my name is Robert Cuevas. I'm the office manager for Linebarger, Goggin, and Sampson, and Mr. Salcedo, who's the attorney for office, couldn't make it tonight, so I'm here in his place to go through these offers. I reviewed them today, and basically what they are, vacant lots here in Aransas Pass. They've been approved by the city of Aransas Pass. The offers are for you to consider, and so if they meet your approval, we can then go to the next step, would be the county approval, and at that point, the bidder would then be awarded the property and we would then ask for payment. Each bid analysis is with each packet, which would provide you a breakdown of what would be paid to the Aransas Pass School District. And in some cases, you will not receive anything because per the property tax code, when an offer is made and they're asking the taxing units to take less than what's owed, the costs have to be paid first. So those costs get paid, and then if there's enough to go to the taxing jurisdictions, they go based on a pro rata share based on the judgment. Generally, most of the time the school district gets a majority or a large portion of the bid because they're owed the most. So in each case, there's a bid analysis for your review, and as I've said before, the city, if it falls to the city of Aransas Pass, it's been approved.
All right. Thank you. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at the properties that are up for tax sale. Does anybody have any comments? Okay, what I'd like to do is, if nobody objects, is to just have a group vote for all 4 properties at one time and a motion to approve the sale of all 4. Can we do that, Ms. Cook? I don't see any reason. Yeah.
We've done it before.
Yeah. But yeah, that was kind of saves a little time. We just do a motion so I hear a motion to approve all 4 tax properties. If you know, somebody, Mr. Director made a motion. Do I hear a second? Second by Ms. Diastis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody disagree, say nay. Ayes got it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Have a good day.
Enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's always good to be here.
Nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
We don't want to run you off. You can stay if you want to stay.
Well, my wife who just left, she's the principal at Ray High School in Corpus. She just got off a little while ago. And she said, well, I'll wait a little while, but then I've got to go eat. I said, I understand more than that. Maybe a while, and it's
So do
okay.
your
because
Valentine
this is
duty.
more
Have
important.
Valentine's
All
night.
right.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
You
Thank
too.
Okay, next is a superintendent's report, construction report. Ms. Cook?
In your packet, you have a punch list both from Weaver Jacobs for the athletic complex part of it, and then from Multichem, we put together, because they're the ones that did the irrigation and the fields. So I think you've had a chance to look over that. So if you have any questions, I will ask Mr. Bennett to come up and answer those questions. He and Mr. Ochoa have done a great job of staying on top of this, walking, talking, working with everyone. You can kind of tell by our punch list that we are being very picky about what every little thing, and we feel that that's necessary and what you would want. So they're looking at every little thing, and as we find things, we're bringing it to their attention. And I think I could safely say that both of Weaver Jacobs and Multichem both are trying to do their very best to make sure that they also meet our high standards and take care of things for us. But if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer them.
No, I just know that board members have brought some concerns up. They brought up to you, and all those have been resolved. So we do appreciate that. That, you know, a couple of us went out there, other people went out there and looked at the fields and found some things that other people didn't see.
Right.
And brought it to our attention, and so we've got almost all those fixed, or at least we're aware of them now, and we'll get fixed in the future. So we do appreciate the effort of the people, as well as Mr. Bennett, for all of his time and effort to get that stuff, and the maintenance people for all the time and effort they've been doing, because they worked real hard to get the windscreens up and all the stuff up and looking nice before we had the scrimmages. So we do appreciate the maintenance people for doing all that and the hours they put in that. So we appreciate their labor.
Yes, it looks wonderful, and we do. The next item is the enrollment, attendance, and COVID-19 reports. You'll see, just as it was cut off, what was put in your board packet for enrollment and attendance rate was from Wednesday. We are having a shift in that department. We've had some people being moved around, so some training, some cross-training going on, so we didn't get those last 2 dates in for you, but I can tell you that our attendance rate this week has definitely, as it ended this week, has definitely come back up. We did hit that Friday of the early release, was our worst attendance, and we were fearful of that, but we taught those who showed up, so we took care of business on that day. But our enrollment is sitting at about 1671. It fluctuates between 1671 and 1675. Our attendance rate as of last Wednesday, I believe, was 19, that would be really bad, 92%. And then, of course, on that Friday, we did have a 66% on that early release day, so that was low. I still have options to do early release waivers, so we'll be looking into that. So it'll basically be taken out of the calculation for that bad weather day. Our COVID numbers, since 1/28, we've had, you can see the downturn is really, we really have seen it change from that spike we had in early January. So you'll see the numbers there. And this week, or last week, our students from February 7th through 11th, we only had 5 students, and today, 2. So we're really seeing a huge difference. We're hopeful and prayerful that that trend continues. So things are looking better on that front. Any questions?
So we're still doing even though the count's going down, we're making sure we're still doing the cleaning
Oh,
and,
yes, sir.
and
We have
all that
not
kind of
changed
stuff.
anything.
As far
Yes.
as some of our protocols and checking the kids if they're sick to make sure so we can kind of stay ahead of it. So we're getting ahead of it now. So we need to just make sure that we don't
All the
dig
safety
ourselves into something we can't
protocols
get out.
are in place. Our Sally McCutcheon still does our COVID testing if it's needed. So everything is in place, and I would safely say for the rest of this school year, and then we'll evaluate, see what the landscape is for our health across the state to determine what next year will look like. But for the rest of this year, I don't think we'll see anything change at all for that.
Well, and I'd just like to express out to the administrators and the rest of the staff here, that we as a board appreciate all the efforts you guys are doing out there to keep the kids safe as well as our rest of our staff safe. And, and just for the public information wise, we haven't closed for COVID so far this year, and a lot of campuses around here have. So we've been able to keep our kids in the classroom, and that's where we want them, is in that classroom, because that's what they need. We don't need to give them more time off. We need to get them in there so we can get caught up what they need to know, so we can, so it's all about what we're doing for the kids. So, and we just appreciate, pass our appreciation to the staff for the diligent work in, kind of keeping COVID down and monitoring the students and keeping them safe, and as well as our administration and staff. But thank you.
Yes,
Anybody
thank
else got
you.
any comments?
I was just wondering, are families still utilizing the testing that's available for them?
Yes.
Oh, they are? Okay.
If any students need it, they're going and taking part in that. Yes.
Okay.
So that leads a great segue into the next is diligently as everyone has been working. We do realize we started that we've been having this conversation, but last week we looked at the taper report of where we were last year and what the results of 1 year of COVID were. Now here we're another year and a half in to it. And, as I've been sharing with you all along, there has been so much work by this tremendous staff and administration that's here tonight to figure out how do we meet these needs? How do we close these gaps? The first step, as I've mentioned, is finding that baseline. We've got to know where we are. Where are our students individually? Where are they as cohorts? Where are they by subjects? So that we can have plans of action. They have been doing that all this first semester and continuing their efforts. And so tonight, our administrators are going to share with you briefly where the benchmarks are for the mid-year and give you what I asked them to focus on was their action plans, because the data is what it is, and here it is, this is where we are, but what are we doing about it? That is what's most important, so that by the time we get to the end of this year and we go into next year, that we really begin to see those gaps closing. So we're starting, I believe, with high school first. Ms. Hale?
Welcome, Ms. Hill. I know you wanted to be at the basketball game tonight, right?
Exactly what I was going to say. In case anyone was wondering, we are at 39-9 right now.
Good. Well, that's good news.
Yes.
Very good. Good evening. We'll start tonight with high school, looking at our benchmarks and action plans. In the summertime, in June, the state came out with House Bill 4545 that required some acceleration instruction requirements. And so it required some quick thinking and some changes on all campuses. And for high school, it looked a little bit differently because we didn't have classes already scheduled for that. And so we had to be flexible and do some changes and get some kids into certain classes to get that tutorial help that they needed to close the gaps, which is what it was all about, closing gaps and helping them to regain the knowledge that could have been lost during the past couple of years. And so the first slide that you'll see is the data from the Eocs, which is the December STAR test. And this is unique on the high school campus because we have a really good baseline. We got to see the what, if it was successful, what we had been doing. And we started with classes and students going into some tutorial classes. And then in December, we stopped and took those tests. And so you'll see on there that I included 2019 because that was the last quote unquote normal year that we had from the beginning of a school year to December. And so we have those percentages of our passing rates. And then 2020, of course, was when we dismissed in March, came back virtually, and then kids began to trickle in. And so it stands to reason that those percentages in 2020 were lower than what it was in 2019. And then 2021 comes around, and we started those classes that I spoke of, getting students into tutorials, working with them, and in 2021 we stopped in December, take that test. With the exception of one content area there, you can see that we held our ground or made significant gains. And I really contribute that to the work that went into those classes where teachers were seeing students face-to-face, or they were going into labs for tutorials to get the help that they needed for the testing. So it created some good baseline data for us to look at and see what was happening was being successful. And so the next slide that you'll see is also the benchmarks, the middle of the year data. Approaches is passing. So the information that was tested was what they had covered from the beginning of the year to December. Approaches is passing, and then meets and masters are just levels above that. And while our goal is for everyone to pass for accountability purposes, we really want to see them move into those next categories of meets and masters as well. So you can see there's work to be done there, but we continue to do that. The next slide is our action plan that we broke down by semester. The first semester, as I said, we worked on having those tutorial classes. In addition to that, we set up classes through Edgenuity, which is an online program that we use for credit recovery on the high school campus. And so we had teachers that went in there and built classes to support the week TEKs that needed to be supported in the 30 hours of tutorials that were required for our students. So we went in there, created that, and had labs that were open at 7 a.m. in the morning, and then stayed open until 5 o'clock in the evening, Monday through Thursday, and had teachers rotate in and out to provide the support for students during that time. In addition to that, we had 3 times that we stopped and looked at this and had progress monitoring and looked at are the students getting the time that's needed to be successful to close these gaps, and set some criteria to look to see if they were successful, and put in all of that data into a platform called Dmacc where it's housed. Second semester, we reviewed the Eoc Scores, which is what the first slide was that we presented. We created some in our schedule. We were able to look at those students that had the 30 hours completed and passed that December test, and move those students out and move some other students in that didn't have the room in their schedule to have that face-to-face, or because of numbers couldn't get into that class. So we were able to put some into those classes. We started another one that I'm really excited about to see the data that comes from it, and that is for our students that English is not their first language. Statistically and historically, we've seen that those students are held to the same accountability, but struggle in the English 1 and English 2 for obvious reasons. So we created a tutorial class specific for them, and have a teacher and then another support teacher who's bilingual to go in there and help them with the reading skills and the writing skills. So that one is happening this second semester. We also provided support at our alternative campus and sent a teacher over there to help with those students, and had a very good success rate with students passing from the support that we sent over there. And then also the last bullet there is that we're focusing on 9th grade this semester in social studies and science. The first semester we focused on reading and math. But those 8th graders that came to us, they take 4-star tests in 8th grade. And if they didn't pass that, that's 120 hours of tutorials that they need. So it was a challenge, to say the least, to get them through that. And so we kind of broke it up in semesters on what we would focus on with them. The following slide is the action plan that we dove deep into with the teachers, specific to the testing content areas. We had a couple of days in December at the end of the semester when students weren't with us to really look at the data, and then when we came back in January to take a few days and create these action plans. And so this is specific to looking at scope and sequence, the timeline to see what needed to be possibly recycled this semester, as we already spoke of tonight. We've had upticks and teachers have been out of the classroom and students have been out of the classroom, so we've had to really, even since then, go back and really look and see what we need to touch on again to make sure that everybody has received the necessary information to be successful and to close these gaps. So it's been a challenge, not just the past couple of years, but even this year, doing everything that has been required of us. And so in closing, I'd just like to say it's taken everybody. When we come together to do these progress monitoring times, it's not just 5 teachers of these content areas. It's teachers in an entire hallway that don't even teach these specific courses that help with the tutorial classes. It's a teacher that is in charge of a lab that she's built these classes for us. When we come together, it's just a room full of teachers, and it takes every single one of them to make this happen. And so kudos to the teachers is what I'm saying. They've done a phenomenal job, and one thing I can say is that we are committed no matter what changes come, and there's still changes to come, probably a conversation for another time, but STAR looks like it's being redesigned and how they're going to ask questions, and so regardless of what comes our way, we're committed to doing what's right for each and every student process. So are there any questions that I can answer?
I got one. What is Dmacc? You said on one slide prior to this when you had Dmacc up there.
Yes, sir.
And
That's where I believe
You said you put that in Dmacc, so.
It's just software where we house the information. So if we were to be audited on what we're doing for House Bill 4545, it's the platform we can go to and show where we're tracking students and what we're doing and the scores and making sure that every single one of them are being tracked.
So it's kind of historical data fact that we can kind of get, but also gives you a basis to judge, so you can kind of evaluate if you're doing good or not.
A lot of
with
our
our students.
reports,
Anybody else?
that's where we pull them from.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions?
Does that include, when we say we house everything, does that include individualized plans for students?
It does.
It does, okay.
Thank you for your leadership. That's
Yeah,
exciting.
and again, like we always say, we appreciate our teachers just like you do, because I know, being an administrator, that you're on the head that, and your administrators. I mean, as administrator, I know that your employees make you look good. So but you're on head here, so you always look good because your employees look good and they do the work. But we as a board want to make sure that all of our administrators pass. Again, like I keep telling you this, pass them, that we appreciate them and we love them and we don't want to lose them. We want to keep going because the market out there and the data shows that our teachers are getting out because they're getting stressed out. So we need to make sure our teachers know they're appreciated and we really, really, really appreciate what they're doing for our students.
All right, Mr. King, you're up.
Speaking of looking good, I like to go before Ms. Hale, so Okay, so on our data, we have 3 different assessments that we're looking at. We have the STAR 360, which is kind of a diagnostic assessment they do at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and they'll do it again at the end of the year. Tells us kind of their functional level where they're working at. Are they reading on are they in 7th grade and reading on a 5th grade level? Then we have our middle of the year benchmark, that's semester taught material, and then the interim window 3 is what that is. The interim assessment is a predictive test that's created by TEA. Gives us an idea of how they will perform on the STAR test, but it's all material whether it's been taught at that point or not. So highlights for us, 8th grade ELA comes in as well or better as they did last year for benchmark and STAR 360. We would like to see the interim a little bit higher, but again, there's material there that hasn't been taught, so we take our wins with the
Sixth grade benchmark comes in at 85%, and eighth grade U.S. history is 81%. Thrilled with that. U.S. history has been a struggle for us in years past, so I'm looking forward. They take the interim assessment next week, so I'm looking forward to see how that comes out. My concerns right now, sixth grade ELA, the benchmark and interim are low, specifically with inferencing and poetry, but the STAR 360 is showing promise, so they're scoring better on their functional level. Seventh grade ELA benchmark, again, is low. I have questions about the test itself, and so we've done some subsequent assessments, smaller assessments in the class, and those aren't reported here, but they're showing improvement. So I think we have kind of an anomaly in the assessment device as it was created by the teacher. STAR 360 and interim assessments, they all came out exceedingly well with the seventh grade ELA. So from the outset this year, we implemented, we used to do 3-week assessments, so we would do an assessment every 3 weeks. We're doing them weekly to bi-weekly, kind of depending on the situation now. So we're trying to do smaller assessments more often so we can kind of keep a micro pulse on where everybody is. Again, we're here in the middle of the year reading and math assessments so we could get that diagnostic piece. Math, particular in sixth grade reading, we've implemented blended learning. We're really doing it across the campus for all core contents, but specifically for math and reading. And that's really where those smaller assessments come from. They take each TEAC and break it down into 4 parts, and then they assess a student 4 levels of difficulty for each TEAC, and they assess a student to see at what level they understand that concept. And then they are able to go back and reteach at the appropriate level and provide activities at the level the kid's working at, so that they feel that success at whatever level, rather than just working above their heads and letting them flounder. So they're able to narrow it down and target specifically where the student is. We have AAO, which is a scheduled intervention and extension time in our schedule. We utilize that in a variety of ways, but specifically, as Ms. L mentioned, House Bill 4545, there's new requirements for going back and hitting material from last year. So we scheduled that in a way that we can pull those students in small groups to work with, again, like Ms. Hale said, it takes a village. So everybody's involved, but we pull them and work in groups of 3 to 10 on specific material that they missed on last year's STAR test. And then our adjustments to that plan, again with science and U.S. history, I don't really have an adjustment for this one yet, but both science and U.S. history take the interim assessment. Science is this week, social studies is next week, and so we'll meet, we'll talk about where those items came in and what we need to focus on. But for math and reading, we recently added Zern Math and BookNook. Those are grant funded and vetted by TEA to solidify our tutoring for House Bill 4545 in those pull-out groups in AAO. We're also going to hire 3 to 4, maybe more, tutors to start I don't really have a name nailed down yet, but a tutoring camp on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4:30 to 6:30, so that we can get some students in to work on House Bill 4545 and some of the items that have been identified through assessments this year.
So, anybody got any questions?
The upcoming tutoring camp, is that for all ages, all subjects? Or those grant funds target certain?
We will focus on math and reading, but we will have opportunities in all content, all core content.
Okay, core content.
And grade level, and it'll be by invite, so we'll target some specific kids.
Now, just my information, and maybe, historic information, I think, shows that math and reading are usually low at AC Blunt in the past tests they've done when we were doing testing. That campus usually had lower scores, and so they went from Charlie Marshall and were pretty good, and they went to AC Blunt and dropped down. So I think a long time ago the board kind of gave direction that we want to bring those grades up so that we can kind of keep them up from Charlie Marshall, so they just either stay the same or get higher. And so by the time we get to high school, we're not kind of rebuild them the bridge again to get them better educated. So, but again, that's you're working on that, and you got plans for that because you were talking about the reading and the math. So that's that's important. So.
In middle school, they read and learn. In elementary, they learn to read. And so sometimes we have to work on some of the learning to read so that we can read fluently and improve our inferencing skills. But those are the things that we're going to look at with these small groups.
Do these programs that you mentioned, the Book Nook and Zern, do they have that access on their take-home laptops? On their computer? Can they use that outside of school, is the question.
Book Nook, I'm not entirely sure on outside of school. I don't think there's a reason why not. In Zern Math.
Okay, good.
Now, our ESL, English second language students, you guys, I don't, you may have mentioned that we got something there at the junior high that we're doing to kind of monitor them and watch them. The English second language. Huh?
We do now, sir.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Picarazzi standing in for Mr. Sagert tonight. He had other obligations, and so we always enjoy seeing one of our assistant principals come and join us.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right, looking at Charlie Marshall's first slide, I'd like to point out a few areas that we are targeting and focusing on. One area is fourth grade reading language arts. So if you take a look at fourth grade reading language arts, at the end of the year, this cohort was at 62% at approaches or above. Our STAR 360 is currently showing that they declined to 48%. However, the TEACS taught teacher benchmark given was exactly the same. Another area of focus and a subject and grade level that we are targeting is fourth grade math. If you look at fourth grade math, last year this cohort was at 42% at approaches or above on STAR. They improved to 51% on their teacher-made TEACS taught middle of year benchmark, but our STAR 360 middle of year shows a decline down to 32%. Our fifth grade science, it is our standalone on our campus. And so although we don't have STAR data or STAR 360 data to compare it to, we do use 12 local assessments to analyze with those teachers in that grade level. There are 10 unit assessments that we have data analysis meetings during our PLCs on, as well as our interim test that we're going to be taking next month in fifth grade for the fifth grade science and our winter benchmark. So we have numerous amounts of data to look at, although it is our standalone on our campus. Two areas that we'd like to highlight are third grade reading language arts and third grade math. So third grade reading language arts was at 54% on STAR last year at approaches or above. We are sitting at 70% on our STAR 360, so a tremendous amount of growth. Third grade math last year, this cohort was at 39% on the STAR at approaches or above, and now they are sitting at 62%, and they increased to 53% on the middle of year teacher-created TEACS taught assessment. So two areas that we would like to celebrate. Looking at our action plan, the percentage of third grade students scoring needs on STAR, we would like to increase to 43% in reading and 41% in math. That was our goal set prior to the pandemic. So what action steps are we going to take? We're going to continue to track student data through our resources that we use in the classroom. As Derek mentioned, Zern, Book Nook, there are a multitude of resources, but tracking that student data to make sure and determine that it is utilized and it's working, or is it not working? Providing support and coaching opportunities through our Engage to Learn and our weekly PLCs with our teachers as we create those blended learning classrooms. Monitoring progress of students and their individual needs through our House Bill 4545 progress monitoring meetings and making sure that we tweak and we adjust and we provide that data-driven instruction to meet the needs of each of our students. Last, we want to, as we have started implementing Reading Academy, our first cohort consists of our third grade teachers joining Falk Elementary teachers, the kindergarten, first and second grade, for the first time this year. So they have been engaged in the Reading Academy. How are we gonna meet those action steps? We analyze data and analyze data and analyze data in our PLCs with each grade level and our teachers because we are trying to close those gaps and meet the needs of all of our students. We have targeted coaching sessions with Engage to Learn as well as Mr. Sager and I during our PLCs. We've scheduled those and we are there to support them throughout the year. Students' ALPs have been created and documented in Dmacc. Those are their accelerated learning plans, but focusing on that instruction that was lost due to COVID. We have tutors that we have hired outside of our teaching staff. They are retired teachers. Every one of our teachers at Charlie Marshall also tutor throughout the school day, and some of them tutor after school as well. They are doing a tremendous job of implementing the resources that they've been given, and now that we're a one-to-one district, it makes it easy to do so. Last but not least, just making sure that we're providing those training opportunities because our Reading Academy teachers have 12 modules to complete by the end of the year. So we are there to support them along the way. We have no doubt at Charlie Marshall that gaps are being filled. We're seeing growth. We have a lot of work to do, but we know that we're going to get there, and we can see it on a weekly basis. Are there any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our report today was for our grade levels that are STAR tested. And so Mr. Mansfield is off the hook for this evening, but next month he will be
Well,
up.
just for information, a lot of stuff that they're doing down at Mr. Mansfield's campus affects Charlie Marshall. So
Yes.
if he doesn't have a program down at his campus that to get the kids up to where they should be in reading and stuff, that by the time we get to Charlie Marshall, then it affects them big
Yes.
time. So they have to catch up. So
rolls
basically,
downhill.
it's almost like the one campus working together for, and we realize that and know that. So, but we do appreciate the work that they're doing down there too.
Well,
and
they're
his
the
teachers are doing.
foundational level, and so it takes, everyone working together, but that report we felt like needed to stand alone because it has that whole House Bill 3 early literacy piece in it, so we're going to dive off into some of that. And so what we did, as I mentioned last month, is we're going to chunk some of this so we don't have so much coming at you so fast, so that way you can kind of take time to look at it, digest it, ask the questions. So we'll have more to come. So each month you'll have a little more as we go through each of our board meetings so that we can continue to report out to you. But I do want to also echo what Mr. Mullenix has already been saying, how fantastic our teachers have been doing this year to push through this. It's been a very difficult year. And I tell you all the time, and I tell them, I cannot imagine working anywhere else with any other team than these great group of administrators. I mean, just standing here, I felt like a proud mama listening to them. They put their heart and soul into what they're doing. You can tell by the way they talk about it. They're committed to making a difference in the lives of these students, and it's very, very evident. And I think we'll see that all of our scores and all those things are going to be reflecting that.
And like I say, Aransas, I think it historically has always has really, great teachers. It's just the fact that now we've asked them to step up and meet the challenges ahead of them, and they're doing a good job as far as I can see out there and all the work they're doing. That just kind of going along what you're saying, we do appreciate it. And like I said, I'll probably say that a million times at board meetings. We appreciate them. So.
Let me just say this. I've been on this board for many years, and I've always been very impressed with our staff. I've always said we have the best staff in the state of Texas. And I live by that. I believe that. We just want to appreciate the job that you all do all the time. You don't work against each other, you work together. And that's the biggest accomplishment that we have here in APISD. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Next on the superintendent's report is to set a date for discussing board and district goals. This was put off due to some other things we needed to cover, so we wanted to look and see if you were ready to set a date for that, to look at those board and district goals.
We really need to strive to make a date that works for
Everyone.
everybody.
Yeah,
Like I said,
so-
we got 3 people that are not here. And what I was looking at is a lot now is going on in February and stuff. And then in March, first part of March, we got the TASB governance conference going on as well. So it may be wise we can set a tentative date, and then if you would like to check with the members who are not here, to see if they're good with that date. Maybe we come up with a couple of dates, and then we can go back with them. And so if board members here present have a couple of dates in March sometime that they're available, we can propose that to the people who are not able to make the meeting tonight and see if they're, if it fits our schedule, and we can kind of take care of it and set it up for us. So again, that's something that we need to work on, because it's been about 2 years since we updated our, we didn't do,
Year and a half,
we did,
yeah.
we did the board goals and stuff like that. And some of them we met, some of them we didn't. And like I said, when we're doing that, as well as that, that's when we can evaluate how well we did on the goals we have set, and then we can kind of adjust those goals. So it's kind of a dual process of not establishing new goals, but also assessing how we did as a board to meet those goals. Just like we hold you people accountable, the administrators and the campuses, we need to hold ourselves accountable for doing what we say we're going to do. And so when we set the goals, we need to make sure that we monitor those and make sure we're doing what we say we're going to do. So we owe that to the public.
Ms. Cook, on a Wednesday, they wouldn't be having playoff games on Wednesday, right?
No.
So unless someone has a church obligation, I would recommend trying to schedule even as early as next Wednesday, the 23rd?
We got to go to the corporate.
That's the grassroots meeting.
That's the other one,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
So you
grassroots
have
on
that, then the
Pick
next
those
week on March 2nd is those that are going to Galveston for the,
Yeah.
that conference, the
So they have a class
governance
starting at
conference.
6 to 9 o'clock
Yes.
on that night.
Then the 9th, we actually have an Education Foundation meeting that evening that
Okay.
some of, and then we have spring break. So yeah, it's the week after spring break, it looks like is pretty open. And remember, we moved the board meeting to March 28th because of spring break. So you don't have anything the week of, you have anything that 1 week, March 21st. Then we go into April. So whatever you guys think.
I do have a question. Is this a workshop or a regular?
Yes.
It's a
Workshop.
workshop?
Where we set goals.
It'll be a workshop setting where we'll look at the goals that were set, make any adjustments, talk about, that's where I wanted to bring to you looking at, because 2 of the facility goals really need to come along with a master facility plan, having that discussion and looking at it from a holistic approach.
Yeah, and like I wrote to Ms. Cook before, I'd like us to have a 5-year plan for the district on facilities, so that we can kind of look ahead. And we're just not trying to catch up, that we can look at that far ahead for 5 years. So we're always trying to plan ahead. So we're always trying to accommodate whatever growth we need for buildings, whatever, student growth, whatever we project, that we're trying to stay ahead of that, so we don't get behind the 8 ball and end up not having space for our kids to get educated at in that. And so that's my objective, is to make sure that we continue, that we do that and set a 5-year goal, and then every year we update it for another year. When we complete it for 1 year, we'll keep our 5-year goal ahead. So that way the administrators know that, hey, what we're going to do on your campus, to any type of improvement we're going to do in facilities, and the maintenance guys would know basically what we're going to do, and the public would know what we're going to do, And if we have bond issues coming up, we can set that up, because some of it's going to take bond, in that. So, so we have an idea of what we're going to work with and build up to. So it just kind of gives us a game plan.
I think it'd probably be wise if you check with all of the working board members what their schedule is. Mr. Mullinex and myself, we don't work, so anytime's fine with us.
Well, yeah, well, I got other things I gotta do too. But I got other meetings I gotta go to on other nights. But
I'm being real optimistic. When does state playoffs?
March, first part of March.
I think first week of March is the girls' state. Isn't it the first weekend? And by the way, they are winning, just as an update. Yes, let's see what it was. At third quarter, 53-14, we are ahead, so.
So we think March 23rd and the 30th would be two target dates to
That's good for me.
March what?
23rd and the
22nd,
30th
23rd.
as being two options to
Okay.
offer to everyone.
And then I could just put it out and
I-
see if that,
You look at your
And I'm
calendar,
just
you
saying
good?
that off the top, that far ahead, I think I'm fine.
You
but-
okay?
Yeah, but
Are you okay on those? Oh, you're like me, right? How about you, Wadis? You got a
do you
job,
have
so.
Wednesday obligations?
I can do that. I would like for us to meet sooner
That would,
than wait until the end of March.
what did you say February 23rd was? Oh, that's the
well,
grassroots.
you could do it, you just can't do it on a Wednesday. It's
Right.
like Wednesdays are pretty full between now and then, but you can do, let's see.
A Tuesday or a Monday
The only thing is just work,
or
is
a
just
Friday?
And
making
playoffs.
sure
If
that we
they're
don't have,
missing
that we
'cause
don't
they wanna watch
miss the
games,
playoff
then
game
they're gonna
again,
wanna
because
be-
What about a Saturday morning? It's a workshop.
it's up to you.
I'm available any day, really. You know, I mean, Saturday's okay with me. It just means I gotta get up early on Saturday, but that's okay. Yeah,
It's fine with me.
yeah.
Anytime.
But again, like I say, most of the days I'm available, throughout the week, but there's certain days I have other obligations.
Well, why don't I do this? There's a site, it's called a
Doodle
Doodle.
poll?
And I'll just do a doodle poll. I'll send it out to all of you as board members with some key dates that we think might work around all the craziness of spring. And then we'll see which date seems to be the one hopefully everyone chooses and says, that's a good date for me. And I'll try to look at it from, beginning next week through spring break and see if we can get something before spring break. How about if I try to do that?
Yeah, and we don't need the Education Service Center like we did last time when we set the goals. Remember, they came and kind of led us through set our initial goals.
You've already set your goals. I
Yeah,
mean,
we're just kind of updating them.
Yeah, I mean, it's more now of a team of 8
Yeah.
having a discussion of where we are, and I'll work with you to kind of set our agenda and kind of how the process will go through that. But I think it's really a good conversation that just us as a team of 8, but if you want someone from the outside to lead,
No,
I mean,
that's
we
fine.
can.
Yeah, we already set our
Right.
major
We
goals
basically
already.
just need to
And we just need to update those and
reevaluate, set
refine
the
them and then
timelines
put
and
some
the
more
next
in there.
steps, yes.
So I think we got a good idea of what we need to do with the goals we got before. So we just need to update them and move on past it, and and not because again, if we tie ourselves to the Education Service Center, it's even going to tie us down to the less dates we're available. So if you do that for us, Ms. Cook, we appreciate it.
Yes, I will put that together and send it out in an email to you tomorrow, and then we'll see the response we get.
Okay.
All right,
Score
thank you.
70-17. I think is that the final 70-17. Go AP. Yes. They were serious tonight. That's awesome.
It's good because they're in the playoffs now, and it's 1 and out. So you got to play. You got to bring your best game every
Right.
game from now on. So
Okay, and then the final thing I had on superintendent's report was just your calendar of upcoming events. We put as many as we can on there, but as always, watch our Facebook page, go to the website, the athletic page, and then we'll be shooting out to you now when our next playoff game is. Our boys will be playing tomorrow night in Odom, 7:30, I believe it is. If they win, they are first in district. They will take district. So, very proud of our kids. So that's all I have on the superintendent's report.
all right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Ms. Cook on the superintendent's report? Okay, next item on the agenda is the financial reports, accounts payable, budget status, investment fund balance, tax collection, bond finance, and FEMA projects are what we're looking at. First, accounts payable, Mrs. Stansberry and Ms. Cook.
Okay, really, if you have, we really want to focus on the fund balance piece, but if you have any questions on accounts payable, budget status, and investments, we'll answer those. If not, then we'll go down. I'm gonna do a little, kind of walk you through that piece, and we know we gave you, some of you I was able to meet with, kind of go over some at prior, but want to make sure for our public, and for anyone else. So if you're okay, we'll go on down to fund balance. Was there anything for the first two items?
Not for me.
Okay.
First two
Anybody else?
meaning accounts payable and budget.
And budget status and investment.
Just go right to fund balance.
Are you
No, I'm
good?
fine.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah,
so-
and did you get an opportunity, I'm sure, if you had an opportunity to talk to all the board members about what we did with, with the things.
No,
we
that's
put
what
in
I'm
the-
about to do now, because
Okay.
I did not.
Okay.
so I'm gonna go
I know
through-
some people have met with you
I'm gonna
one-on-one
go through
already
it
and
just like,
discussed that.
so some of you are gonna hear it for a second time.
Okay, that's fine.
That is
So,
here.
Go for it.
So, but I think that's good for our public that'll be viewing the video to also hear. So tonight, we're going a little deeper into fund balance, to look at a few things. This leads up to, one of your action items that will come, here in just a little bit, concerning our insurance premium increase that we have. We had a special meeting, last week, I guess it was. Time's kind of coming together. So we heard about how our insurance premiums are going up. And we need to look at, you need to choose from different options. And so we wanted to provide for you and answer questions that you had from that special meeting and give you some scenarios so that you could look at it and aid you in making the best decision possible, because we know that's a lot of information that comes at you quickly, and we want to make sure that you feel comfortable with the decision you make. So the first thing I did is I asked Ms. Stansberry to go back and let's look at a historical look at our fund balance, because I think that is something not only for you but for me, because this is my 4th year here, and so I think it's good sometimes to look back in our history to where we were, how we were doing, and then how we came to where we are. So that way we can learn from that, grow from that, and make good decisions moving forward. So if you look at our fund balance timeline, we started back at 2011. And if you look at that from 2011 to 2016, you'll notice that there was every year an excess revenue over expenditures that was put back into fund balance. So we started with a $3.8 million in 2011, and by the end of 2016, we had $7.1 million in our fund balance. And so I was looking back with Ms. Stansberry to say, okay, what was happening here? What was going on? How were we able to have that kind of money that went back over? This was a time of good growth here for our ADA, students moving into the area. The enrollment was going up, and so this was a time, I'm going to say it was a very boring time here in Aransas Pass that stopped beginning in 2017. Because when you start looking at the next part, it the activity that started occurring beginning with Harvey has been an uptick in things for our fund balance. So as far as fund balance is concerned, there was having school, students coming, growing, and able to meet the needs of what needed to happen in the district. There was no major issues or hurricanes or anything that had occurred. So the fund balance was being built up to a very nice place to be at $7.1 million. In 2016-17, starting with that as the beginning fund balance, because of that growth, it looks like the Board of Trustees and Superintendent at that time looked and said, let's purchase some buses and some vehicles out of our fund balance. We're doing well. But then there was a deficiency this year of $610,000. And so we looked back at what happened, and during this year, the ADA that was projected for the budget was not met. So all these years, it was growth, and then there was something happened this particular year that the growth did not meet what the budget was set on. So that caused a deficit, and also the tax collections. So that's what brought down the fund balance from 7.1 to 6.1. Then you move to 2017-18, and we all remember what happened that year. This was the year of Harvey. So as Cheryl was talking about, the budget was being set, and then I hadn't even been taken for approval, right, before Harvey.
Happened on Friday, and we were supposed to have a board meeting Monday to pass the budget.
So this is the year where things started becoming very interesting for us here in Aransas Pass and lots of districts along the coast. So we started with our $6.1 million fund balance, and then you see an excess revenue was added for that year to bring it to 6.6. So my question was, how in the world did that happen when Harvey hit? So she went back and pulled that information. And during this time, because of Harvey, the school district received $2.3 million in temporary impact aid immediately for Harvey to help with the aid of help keeping the schools running. And out of that, so what you're seeing is this $509,000 is what was left from the impact aid after the $1.3 million deductible and the drop in ADA, because there was a tremendous drop this year because so many students were displaced, had to move out of the district, and so out of the $2.3 million temporary impact aid, after the $1.3 million deductible to the insurance company and the loss of revenue due to ADA drop, there still was $509,000 that was able to be put back into fund balance. So that puts us at $6.6 million by the end of 2018. Then we move into 2018-19. We start with that, and you'll see add excess revenues over expenditures of $1.1 million. This is when I came in, and right after Harvey, and then we started looking at, there was a lot of opportunity through the federal government and the state government for grants. And you'll remember, I think every board meeting, we were so excited to come to you. We got another grant. We got another grant. So we were going after anything and everything we could find. And that's what that $1.1 million is a culmination of grant aid due to after Harvey. That was put into fund balance. But during this same time, if you remember, the bond passed in 2016 for Falk and for the new gym and for the athletic complex. In that, there was some unplanned architect fees, and you see the amount here, and we've already had that discussion in the past, but those had to be paid, and they came out of fund balance. There also was some funding that had to come out to cover additional costs for the new gym because bids came in a lot higher, a lot over budget. This was due to a lot that after Harvey, the cost of any type of construction went up, supply and demand. So we kind of got hit here that everything that was done in 2016 and planned, then after Harvey, it went up tremendously, and we all felt that pain in this area. So once we received these grants, but we also had these large expenditures that were not planned for in our budget, and we did receive one payment from FEMA. And once we finished that year out and closed it with the audit, our balance was at $6.2 million. So it went from 6.6 down to 6.2. So thankfully, we did have those grants and so forth that did help us to not realize a great loss at this time, even though there were many moving parts. You have Harvey and you have construction all happening at the same time.
Question. That 1.1 million, that line item for 2018-19 transfer to capital projects to cover unplanned architect fees. It says for new elementary, just for Falk was $1.2 million.
No, I think that was for the whole project, for the gym.
Yeah,
and it was the architect fees for the whole structures for all of
I think
it.
this was for the whole.
All the bond?
Actually, this should
Yeah,
have been
for the bond project,
for the bond.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so the bond was for the new elementary, for the new gym, and then for the concession stand and restrooms.
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
So the rest of the complex came out of,
They were coming to that.
oh, okay.
Yes. So then in 1920, we started with our $6.2 million in fund balance, and we realized a deficiency of $488,000. This was the first year of COVID. and we had a loss of ADA revenue. We were supposed to be held harmless by the state. By their calculations, this is how they held us harmless. Supposedly, this was going to be worse if they had not held us harmless, but that's where we are. We still lost $488,000, which caused our end balance then to be $5.8 million. You see two items here that are grants that we went after, Hurricane Harvey Disaster Reimbursement Grant and the NIFA grant. Both of those went in, but then they came right back out to fulfill what those grants were to serve. So in the end, we started with 6.2, and due to the ADA fallout, we had 5.8 by the end of 2020. Okay? I'm just going to keep going. If you have questions, just stop me. I've said this so many times to so many people now, I'm kind of feel like I'm a robot, so just stop me. Then we come to 2021. We continue our COVID fallout, which you'll see momentarily. We started with our $5.8 million in fund balance. We amended the budget, as you see, as we hired our new athletic director after the budget had been set. So there was that budget had not been set for the increase in hiring a new athletic director. So the board voted to make that adjustment. And then the next two are the obligating funds for the athletic facilities project. Both of those, you see, we have a $3.2 million for the athletic complex and $923,000 for the athletic complex. This was taken out of fund balance to add to the bond funding that we had for the athletic complex. After this was done, that left us with a $1.5 million $1.5 million fund balance. And then you see to close out with the audit, there were some audit adjustments. There was some unrealized revenues. This is basically closing entries that once again had to do with ADA shortages. And then we also had some unspent appropriations of $2.1 million. This is basically all functions that had not been spent because we had, due to closures and different things that happened, these were some unspent funds. But the largest amount of that 2.1 was out of that 3.2 and $923,000 for the athletic complex. The largest amount of that was included in there was $1.2 million. Because when we closed out the fiscal year, we had not finished the athletic complex. So the auditors take the money that was appropriated, put over, it's a bookkeeping piece. So it basically had to go back into fund balance. And in a little bit, you're going to see that is one of the amendments tonight that has to be taken back out of fund balance so we can pay for the athletic complex, the final payments. Once all of that happened, I know that gets a little confusing there. There's a lot going on here. We've got from ADA for COVID, and then a lot to do with the athletic complex, gives us ending on 2021 $3.3 million in fund balance. I'll stop there a moment because I know that's a lot to take in.
Okay, could you restate that about the auditing piece for? It was taken out, and then tonight we're going to put it back.
Yes, and the 2.1 is reflective of all functions that had to when the books were closed out, and a part of that is this 1 point you see down under function 81. It says we're going to come to on further down, move obligated fund balance for function 81 unspent appropriations. So we added those unspent appropriations up here that total 2.1 because of some other things, and we can. I think she brought everything in here. We can go through line by line if you'd wish, but there's like a culmination. The largest amount was this 1.2, okay. And that's what we're coming back with an amendment tonight because that has to be taken back out because it was approved up here earlier in 2021. That was approved. It went back into the fund balance. It came out. It went back in. We have to take that 1.2 back out because we owe that now for the athletic complex.
So at the time, the auditors didn't allow us to encumber it. We had to drop back down to the fund balance.
How they make us do that.
At the end of the school year, I had accrued what the contract balances due were. The auditor only allows what was actually completed. It was a percentage of completion. So with that being said, we had to do an adjustment to our accrued trade payables, and we had to adjust. We reversed some of those accruals and put them back into the expense. We reversed the expense. So that's why we have the the 2.164 million. That's why it went back up, because at the end of August, when I gave a budget status, I had that as a zero balance because I had accrued it to 100%. So,
Even though it was a contractual obligation?
I'm sorry?
I said even though it was a contractual obligation?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we had a lot of discussion on that.
All right. We won't rehash that, but I'm just curious.
So that leaves us, as I said, at the end of 21-22, $3.3 million, which leads us now to 21-22. We begin with $3.3 million. The Restart Grant, tonight you're going to have several amendments that we're bringing to you. The first one is to add this Restart Grant back into the fund balance for $342,000. This money, I mentioned to you briefly when I talked to you about Keyburger remodel, that we had received a grant, and we'd like to use that towards the remodel of Keyburger. But after learning that we were going to have this large expenditure that's going to have to occur for our premium, we felt that was not fiscally responsible for us at this time, even though it is needed, but it's not fiscally responsible for us to take this grant and use it for that. So we feel it needs to go back into fund balance, because you'll see why here momentarily as we continue through this. So we're going to have where we put the $342,000 grant into fund balance. Then you will see that two things that had been done. The $100,000 was approved. It was earlier summer, it was first of the year. Yeah, September. This was for the beautification projects. Remember the long list of beautification projects we had for the district to do some upkeep and some things that had not been done in a while. That is what that was used for. The $65,000 was the AC Blunt air conditioner that we had to purchase due to it going out. Once we put this Restart Grant back in, or put it in, and then the two amendments that had been approved earlier this year, that will put us at $3.5 million. And then we need to move out that $1.2 million that was the appropriation from the athletic funds, so that we can begin to close that all out. Once that is done, and that is an amendment tonight, that will leave us with $2.3 million in fund balance. I added the FEMA piece at the bottom just for reference. That is not money in the bank. That is still being negotiated. There is $1.7 million that's being negotiated. Half of that literally kind of is sitting over in an account, but we have not moved it over, brought it to you to move over into fund balance, because they have been taking a lot back. And so we don't want to put it in and then have to pull it back out. So we are waiting until we know for sure this money is ours. We're hopeful and very prayerful at this point that we will realize that total $1.7 million. If we do, that would definitely be a saving grace for us. It would put us back up to $4 million in fund balance. But I wanted to show the reality. I felt it's very important as you're making these decisions what our reality is. Our reality tonight, after you make these amendments, before you make your decision on, or as you're making your decision also on which option to choose for the premium, for our insurance, our reality is $2.3 million in fund balance. Which then leads me to, and Mr. Chase is here, and momentarily he'll be coming up answering all your questions on the insurance side. So, but I did want to go ahead and put the options that you asked for. I put that here too, and you'll see it again when it's time to make this decision. I put it here because I wanted you to reference it in with If you could show the one where I have the fund all this. So he'll go over your insurance summary, but you'll remember the request was to look at options, and he did option with 35 million loss limit at a 3% and a 5%, and what the deductibles would be. So you would know the deductibles, what the premiums would be, and then a 50 million at 3 and 5%. So he's giving on this sheet that you have in there in your packet. That is what he's going to discuss even further and answer all your questions. What I want to show you in this portion is what your choice, when you make a choice here, which option, what it will mean for our fund balance. Okay, so that's what this sheet is. So if you'll look, and I hope this is helpful. Those I've talked to, it seemed to be, because I just felt like this is how I make decisions, especially when they're of this magnitude. So I thought we'd put it out like this. So the first one we did is a fund balance after deduction of the needed premium. So example, if you have option 1, which is a 3% deductible with a $35 million loss limit, you see I put current balance is 2.3. That's just from the page we just went through. The premium difference would be $269,089. You may say, well, then why is that different than what I see on this other page, which was a difference of $309? And that is because we had budgeted 10%, about 10% more than that $756, thinking the premiums probably would go up, but we had no idea they would go up to this level, so we had not budgeted to that amount. So our budget amount was $796,550. So I took the $796.50, subtracted the $756,359. So that way it helps me know how much, what we would actually need to take out of fund balance, trying to get it to the penny as much as possible. So if you choose option 1, we would need to take $269 out of our $2.3 million, leaving us a new fund balance of just a little over $2 million. That's what that first one shows you. And then I did that for each option. Option 2 is, if you look here, option 2 is $35 million loss limit with a 5% deductible. You notice it is less that we have to pay up front. It's $142,000, which gives us a little more left in fund balance. But you'll see momentarily there's quite a, when you look at a 5%, what the deductible will be. So it's like, do you pay on the front or the back side? So it's which way. Option 3 is the 3% on $50 million. It's $509,000 we would need to take out of fund balance. And you see what would be left. And option 4 is 5% with so that's $366,000, leaving us under $2 million. So any questions on that? Just trying to help you see what the, so you wouldn't have to sit there and figure it. I tried to just kind of give it for you. So then the big question asked last time, which was a great question. We've had these conversations before, and I used to always say 3 months operating procedure, 3 months operating expenses, and that was, apparently I'm getting really old. That was old school. New school is 2 months operating by TASBO. So we figured the 2 months operating expenses that we would need is $2.6 million. And then I took what a 3% deductible would be on the $92 million value that we have. If we had a catastrophic event that caused, and Chase can correct me if I'm wrong on this, so I did the 3%, which is $2.7 million would be our deductible. So total needed that we should really have in fund balance to cover 2 months operating and a deductible if they had a catastrophic event that pretty much took out all of our buildings, we need $5.4 million. If you have 2 months operating, which is still the same, 2.6 plus the 5% deductible, that's $4.6 million. So we would need $7.3 million in our fund balance. And then I went one step further, and I thought, okay, so let's look at this. How short are we? So that helps you then when you are looking at option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. It kind of starts coming down to what can we afford? You know, how are we going to make sure we manage this district wisely? So option one, if you have a 2 million, we're sitting at this point, option one, that would be your new balance after your premium. Then you have the option one deductible. So needed in fund balance, if going with option one, we would be short to have it at the level that meet your deductible and your 2 months operating, we would be short $3.4 million. That is not taking in consideration any of the FEMA funds. So if we did receive the 1.7, we would only be short 1.6. So that would be such a blessing. And then I did it for each option. You see option 2, option 3, and option 4. I know that's a lot. That's why I wanted to, you know, if you had time to beforehand to kind of to digest this, is a lot to think about.
And just for public information, that you know, the deductible, if you had a catastrophic event, that you need that deductible. Hopefully, we can get through this year without that, and that's the worst. You know, that's the worst case scenario too. So that's what you always try to do, is plan ahead for the worst case scenario. So hopefully we won't have that worst case scenario where all our buildings are destroyed. We have to replace them. You know, because last time we didn't our $92 million, we had $20 million worth of damage we had to do.
Yeah,
So
we had that right here.
yeah. So again, just for public information that what I would like to is the operating funds for 2 months, and the deductible. We just need to make sure we build our fund balance back up again.
Yes.
In that, and again, I guess for Chase, if we choose an option with where we can kind of with a lower premium and stuff, so we if we need to, next year since we have to renew this every year, we could change that option. It's probably, again, the premium is probably going to go up from year to year now, because we've been, like before, we've been locked in for 3 or 4 years. So we've been lucky, like we talked about during the workshop. So, so every year we can kind of plan ahead and probably get with Chase and make sure we know it.
Definitely.
So we set the budget, we can kind of look and say, what do you project the insurance premium to be next year? Because we know it's going to raise up. Just the price of living is going up, so everything's going up. So therefore, we got to be realistic. We got to realize the fact that the insurance is going to go up as well, just like your home insurance, anything else. So.
Well, that's why I wanted you to see this, because it's twofold here. We have to have insurance, so I wanted you to have all the information so you can make the best decision tonight, because we need to make it so we can get this paid by March 1st. But then looking ahead to understand what it is we're dealing with, and that it's very evident that we definitely need to build our fund balance back up. I've already been working with our team. We're looking at ways that we can do that, how we can my goal is within a couple of years that we have this back exactly where it needs to be. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some team effort. We've already got some meetings set up where we're going to brainstorm some things, utilizing our ESSER funds to kind of offset some of our local budget into using our ESSER funds. So we have some work ahead of us, but I have no doubt that we as a team will figure this out. We want to make sure we do it in a way that we still move our district forward, that we make good decisions, that our students and staff don't feel the pain of this, that they still feel supported, have the supplies they need, have access and so forth, so that, because we have this monumental task over here of we're trying to close these gaps and take this district to the next level. So we do have a challenge before us to do it, but I have no doubt that we will figure this out. We will work together, but I think, it's just the reality. We have to let that set in. This is where we are, and we can't go back.
We got to deal with it.
We got to deal with where we are, and let's push forward. And I'm a Pollyanna, but I do believe we can make this happen. We will make this happen. We've already been, her and I have been almost talking nonstop lately, going, what can we do? And that's why I wanted you to see the historical data, because if you go back to those years where ADA was going up, which is exactly what we have happening right now, we were averaging about $400,000 to $500,000 a year that we could put back in fund balance. So that needs to be our goal, is to be working diligently to underspend as much as we can. We need to go after, in order for us to make sure that we take this district to the level we want it to go, that will be more work on us just to go after those grants and do everything we can. And I have a great team. We've shown it that we know how to get grants. It's kind of hard to manage it when it gets here. It's like, oh, that's a lot of work, but it is worth it. So I don't want you to be stressed or worried. That's my job, to be stressed and worried. We will make this happen. We will turn this thing around. But I wanted to make sure you tonight had the information you need to feel like you made a good decision on the premiums.
Yeah, and like I say, I thank you for all the work, because I know you guys, you and Cheryl both have been working this nonstop since last week, almost nonstop. Because Cheryl and I had a conversation for almost like 2.5 hour deal in the office last week, and we talked about this a lot and that, and we came up with some slides, kind of hopefully explained it a little bit better, because I was totally lost. I was in a fog when they start talking some of this stuff. So we come up with some ideas to make it clear for the board members, and we as a board just got to remember, in the future we got to be frugal with our money for a while, and but we also got to make sure we take care of our staff and our students. I mean, we but again, there's no fluff out there that we can do, all these other, great things like as far as building or adding something on or whatever else. We need to kind of watch that and and really make sure whatever we do is needed, and we can't push it off for a while. But again, it's all about how it affects our students and our staff. That's our bottom line priority. We need to do whatever we need to do to take care of them first, and then and get our fund balance build back up, and then in a couple of years we'll be back looking back in the mirror and saying we're good. So
A couple of comments. One of the things we have to, and I appreciate the detail, because this is what I was looking for, to be able to see and have a better understanding of what is our reality. And I'm in favor of not factoring in the FEMA reimbursement at this time, because we don't know when that's going to come. We thought it was going to come last year, and it hasn't.
Yes.
So as far as making decisions right now, right here, that FEMA money may come, some may come, they may take some of it back, we don't know. It's beyond our control. And since we can't utilize it today, then I don't think it needs to be a factor today.
Yes.
That's just my thoughts on the FEMA reimbursement. The other thing is that we have to live within our means when we're assessing this new period for insurance. As Chase explained to us last week, we were growing, and we were in a soft market for insurance. Well, now we've hit the hard market with the climbing costs of not only insurance, but we've seen our bond projects, because of the high cost of products and construction, go up. So the estimates we had way back when to even do the bond for voters, those numbers, the actual numbers came in so much higher. So we need to know what our reality is. And it's not as favorable, it's not where we want to be, but that's what it is, and that's where we need to be able to make decisions on and develop strategies and ways to improve upon that to make us more fiscally and financially sound.
Yes.
And just for the district, we're not broke, okay?
Oh, no.
The thing is, just for the people out there that are listening, that we're okay.
Yes.
It's just the fact that because again, the operating expense for 2 months is the worst case scenario, and also the deductible for insurance is the worst case scenario. So to have those both together at the same time, I mean, the odds are just astronomical. I wouldn't bet on it. So
Right.
so again, you got to look at the future ahead, and just realize the fact that we want to be there where we don't have to worry about this. So
Right.
if we do have those two catastrophic events simultaneously, we can get to it and survive. But
Yeah.
right now we're not able to do that, so we need to make sure we build up our fund balance to do that in the future.
Well, it's
before
just
something does
preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. And that's what we owe to this district, to this community, is to build that back up. We've just had a lot of hard hits over quite a few years now. But our ADA is going up. We are seeing that growth. We are seeing, light here. It's just, we just needed to, this one just kind of caught us off guard with the insurance going up so high. But it's something we just have to deal with, and we don't have a choice.
And I kind of agree with one else. One is that the FEMA money. Because there's some people still. In around here, there's buildings and organizations that are still waiting for FEMA money from Hurricane Harvey, which was 4 years ago, and they still haven't got it. So there's a lot of construction and buildings. There are people still waiting for that money to do anything. So. So again, the FEMA money is one of those things we can look at, but I don't think in the future we need to bet on that, as spending that money. If it comes, then we can add it into it, and then we can do those projects after we get the money in hand.
Yes.
So that would be, I think a better thing to do, so.
As we stay on this topic, I just also want, we will do what we need to do as a board and as a district. But I also would like to challenge all the taxpayers out there. We are sitting with over $1.7 million of delinquent taxes. That could solve a lot of any school districts, city problems. Please, again, you're asking us to do a lot. Just do your due diligence by paying taxes. It's just common sense and the right thing to do. So, yes, we will continue to support and be creative and do what we need to do. But we look at this every year. We have a less than 22% of the citizens in this town don't pay taxes. 22% on an average. And that speaks volumes. So I know that lawyer comes up here and we sell land every month. They're doing what they can to recoup it, but at the end of the day, everyone has their own obligation as well. So
Yes, ma'am.
I think we need to vote on this step.
Okay.
Well, you don't have to,
Not
there's
yet.
nothing at
We're
this point.
gonna-
Yeah,
this is
this is preparing you for now moving
for his
on.
presentation on the premiums coming
So
up.
if you want,
So we're not at the action items yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
but that's all I had on that. And if you don't have any other questions in the financial reports, then we're to the consent agenda, and then we can start moving on to you making all the, pretty much
Well,
now
yeah,
going through
we got
the
the
action.
tax, anybody got any more questions on the tax finance or FEMA projects? That from Ms. Stansberry and Mrs. Cook? If not, we'll move on to consent agenda. Item 1 is the minutes of the regular meeting of January 24th and February the 11th, the special meeting we had. Has everybody had a chance to look at and review those? Any comments, corrections, or anything else on either one of those minutes? With that being said, do I have a motion to consider and approve the minutes for January 24th regular board meeting and the February 7th, 2022 special board meeting?
So move.
Mr. Director made a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Butler. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody disagree? Ayes, got it. Next on the action item is consider and approve purchase of tax sale property.
Oh,
We already
we've
did that
done
one.
those.
Yeah,
We go
yeah,
down
okay,
to-
we're way ahead then. All right, then
Yeah,
we're moving.
You'll go to E.
Okay, item E is consider and approve resolution to leave adjustments, for leave adjustments during weather-related closure. Ms. Cook?
This is, I'm trying to go back. I've thought so much about this other stuff, I have to look at what the date on this was. On January 21st.
Jan 21st.
2022, closed to the inclement weather that we had. This is an option that you have as a Board of Trustees, that for our staff, they can either make this day up, which would be Good Friday, is our next makeup day, or you may pass a board resolution and allow us to just count that day and pay them for that day and move forward. So I know our area district's also closed at this time and we're planning on taking a resolution. So we've done this before, but I didn't know how you felt about doing it again, but I just thought I would ask. I think it would be, as you talked about earlier, there's a lot, our staff and everyone has a lot of effort they've put into this very difficult time, and this is, sometimes we may not be able to pay as much as other districts or some of those things because it's just not within our means. But this is a way to show our support, our encouragement in a small way by not having them have to make this day up.
Does anybody have any comments, questions on that? Okay, and I kind of agree with you. Looking at for our teachers wise, we don't because a lot of people have already planned for those days off. Made plans ahead and to put that back into the schedule. And same way with families and stuff. They know the calendar, so it'd be an actual day. The students wouldn't be here, but the teachers would be back to work, and that. And again, with what we've put our teachers through for the last year and a half of COVID, we need to take every opportunity we can to take care of them. So, so I kind of have no problem with this resolution to pass it. So, anybody else have any questions or comments on it?
The current calendar has 2 bad weather days. So if we don't utilize them, then staff is off basically if we do this? If we pass
If
this
because right now the bad weather day is on Good Friday and it's a holiday or a bad weather day. So if they don't have to if you pass this resolution, then they get to keep their Good Friday as a holiday.
as a holiday.
And then the other one, same thing. If
Is that
usually
Memorial Day?
I think
The
it's
25th,
the
May
day
25th.
before.
It's right before graduation.
Yeah, right before graduation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's a teacher work day, bad weather day on the 26th, and on the 25th is a bad weather day. It has a little dot.
Well, the
But it's right
student.
before graduation, right?
Yes, yes. So they basically, it'll just be whatever that, if it was a work day or a holiday, it'll stay that.
Okay.
So all we're doing is just making sure they don't have to make that up by a day they're supposed to be off, is putting them back to work on that day, having them come in, not the students, but the staff come in. We're saying we're going to give, you don't have to make that day up.
And there's no more cost to the district for this. We've already budgeted these days in for their pay. So it doesn't cost the district extra money to do this. It's already budgeted. It's just that they're not working that day for that pay, basically.
So the part of the resolution that talks about leave adjustments that's necessary, what would that be?
Oh, let me see. Where?
Or was it, maybe it was in the
Read this a
intro?
while.
Maybe it was in the intro
It's
instead of
description.
the description, rather.
Says resolution regarding authorization of leave adjustment for January 21.
Well, that's what you're doing. That's what this is called, is a leave adjustment. You're basically, they were off on leave, basically. They did not work those days, and you're passing a resolution
You give them a
to
paid
give them
day
an
off.
adjustment so the teachers are supposed to work 187 days. Then we have hourly employees that get paid by the hour. So this is a leave adjustment where you're basically passing a resolution that you're going to allow them to be paid for the day that they actually did not work.
Okay. But nobody's leave has been.
No.
there wasn't
No,
like a-
no, no.
okay.
It's just what this is called.
Under the plan. under the
Yes,
company.
yes,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
All right.
Just terminology.
Yes,
I want to make
yes.
sure.
No, no, no.
Okay. No problem. I mean, questions, we want you to feel
That's
comfortable
right.
before you vote. So anybody got any more questions? Okay, do I have a motion to consider and approve resolution for leave adjustments during weather-related closure? So moved by Mrs. Diasa, second by Ms. Butler. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is item F, consider and approve 2022-2023 calendar. Ms. Cook?
This calendar looks very, very similar to our calendar this year. This was put out to our teachers. They actually put out 2 options. When you build a calendar, there's not a lot of leadway because you can't start until this day, or you can't start until before August. You really want to finish before Memorial Day. We're trying to make sure we get those 187 teacher days in, have plenty of minutes for our students. So it kind of, and with all the holidays, there's not a lot of leadway when you're doing a calendar, but we try to give some choice. So we put some two options out to the teachers. We received quite a bit of feedback on some things they really had concerns about. So then we revamped it and we put out a third option. So this was the calendar that had the most votes by our staff. Then I took it to the District Education Improvement Committee, the DIC committee, per policy, presented it to them, and they also approved for it to be brought to you tonight for approval for our next year's calendar.
I move that we.
Anybody got any questions, comments on it? Okay, I just want to make sure that, because I know that we just need to make sure that we give our staff every month. And I looked at the calendar, and you guys have done that. So we give our staff maybe not a day off, but professional development.
Yes.
And I know a lot of times that they don't have to, that having a day off from your students not being there and having to, work with students all day is less stressful for them. Being on that other side of the fence, because I love my professional development days, and I'm sure the teachers still feel the same way. So that's important for them to make sure we have that built every month. So at least they have a day to sit back a little bit and have professional development and have a little camaraderie between their peers and stuff like that. So, and I looked at the calendar and it's pretty well done. You've done that. So
yeah, it's pretty much, we made sure this year that at the end of in the beginning of each 6 weeks, they have a planning day, work day. Only time it didn't happen was in October, but it's in the third week.
And they'll get plenty of time off in November, December.
Yes,
so,
and
yeah.
so and because we have we have a lot to overcome and we have very high expectations, we want to make sure we provide that high support and that time for them to collaborate, as they were saying. They're data digging, looking at their plans, looking at how to help these students, so they need that time.
Yeah. Because the students going to lose a lot over the summertime too. So you're trying to rebuild them back up from the summer break, and when they get back to school, that's the opportunity for you to get them back into the swing of things. Okay, anybody else have any questions? Okay, do I hear a motion to consider and approve the 2022-2023 calendar?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Butler, second by Mr. Rector. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Aye is carried. Next is consider and approve innovation courses to support special education. Ms. Cook.
Actually, I'm going to request Chris Johnson to come up
Oh,
and share a
well,
little.
welcome, Chris.
uh,
I saw you sitting back there, so.
Yes. Give her an opportunity to speak.
Yeah, all right.
Good evening.
Hi.
So TEA, way back when they started requiring that our most needy students get state elective credits that match their peers. And so we've been putting our kids in principal's classes, in art, in theater, and that's appropriate for some of them, but not for all of them. So now TEA has approved multiple courses that would allow our life skills type students to receive state graduation credit in an appropriate setting. So some of these courses are designed for autistic students. Some of them are designed for them to learn how to use community transportation. Some of them are designed to put some of their general ed peers with them for a buddy system. And so I met with Michelle Hale, and we went through all of them and kind of picked 6 or 7 that we thought would work for our students, and we don't want to approve all of them. They're also, the teacher requirements are a little bit more lenient, so we can have a special education teacher teaching them instead of having to use our resources with our English teachers, our math teachers, our CTE teachers, and still receive those state credits. So it gives us a lot of flexibility in the master schedule to meet the needs of just these few students, and especially as our autistic population grows, this is going to become a bigger issue as time goes on. We have a really big 6th grade class of autistic students that are going to be moving through, and we're just really trying to get ready while meeting the needs of our existing high school students.
Anybody got any questions?
So it would be, I believe there's 7 programs that would be launched here for APISD.
For most of our
Children
life
with
skills type
disabilities.
students,
Okay.
and our transition, the laws about transition for those types of students have become very strict, and they really determine whether or not we have to educate them until the age of 22, or whether they can graduate beginning at 18. So we have to have them ready for whatever comes after high school. And so by offering them general employability skills, by offering them internship opportunities at their capability, they're gonna earn their high school graduation elective credit, but we're also gonna be meeting those requirements so that we're not gonna be having to educate as many of them for the additional 4 years, which gets very expensive because they have to be separated from the other high school students and we're still doing the same thing.
Great.
Yeah, like I say, and I think we as a district need to take care of our special ed students and consider them into what we're doing too, because they're part of our campuses and part of our district. And for special ed parents, for the special needs kids, some of those are full-time job for them, for those kids in that. So we need to provide whatever support we can for them in that, and also help prepare those kids better off for life after school.
Right, and just on the side, just in this year, our special ed population has grown from 139 students to 164. So we've seen a pretty significant growth there.
Now, Ms. Cook, you could educate me, but again, it used to be the fact that the state kind of looked down upon you had a certain percentage of special ed you had for your population. This was several years back. Have they done away with that?
Well, you can't really, I mean, if they qualify for special ed,
Yeah.
you can't, that's
But
a
the
whole
corrective
separate thing.
action plan did come from the 8.5%
Yes.
standard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
then
we
like
are
for the
corrective action.
testing, but, I mean, if, the state got a lot of, flack for that.
But yeah,
That's
I
like
just
saying
so
you're
we don't do
gonna-
that anymore. So we don't.
you have
We're
to
not
cut
tied to that.
off. You
We're
have
not
to
tied
meet
to that
the needs
anymore.
of the students.
And in the 8 years that I've been here, we've stayed pretty steady at 12%. We've always rejected that 8.5% notion. We've always tested any student that we suspected of having a disability and qualified if they met the state standards for eligibility.
Yeah, and that's what we need to live by and go
Yeah,
by,
so
not what
it's about
not what
meeting
that
the needs of
8.5 standard is to
students.
meet the
Yeah.
percentage. We need, if they need the help, we need to give them the help.
Right.
One thing that I don't know who found these programs, or is this something that TEA released?
School districts write innovative
Okay.
curriculum and TA approves it, but you have to vet it out. You have to go seek for it, and they kind of hide it. But we were, as we started working on transition and just really being concerned about an 18+ program and how do we meet the needs of kids by the 12th grade instead of having, and for the parents, I mean, up to 22, they're getting pretty mature at that point. And if they can work, if they can have a quality life outside of high school, we felt like we needed to be ahead of that, not waiting until after graduation. So we actually went out to TEA and vetted out these innovative courses, and we met with Ms. Hale to see what would meet the needs of our students.
I just want to say that I think that this is an excellent step in doing the right thing. Because students with disabilities have abilities. We just have to find a way to let them have the access to resources and tools so that they can contribute in ways that only they can.
Right.
And so I'm in favor of this. And students with disabilities, just like we're doing things and assessing individuals to bring them up after, COVID and learning loss and all that, this to me falls right in that same bucket with students with disabilities. And this is giving them, tapping into their talents and abilities and gifts so that they can make that transition. This is real life, advantageous, beneficial resources and tools through these types of programs that here you've had to go find it and go beyond, but really this should be the norm for public education. So kudos.
Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, do I have a motion to consider and approve innovative courses to support special education?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Butler. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Diaz. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody disagree? Ayes carry. Next is item H, which is consider and approve the grant from Aransas ISD Education Foundation for students to attend Women in Industry Conference. Ms. Cook.
Yes, you'll see a memo that was placed in here. This is for 30 students, 3 adult sponsors, a bus driver to go to the Women in Industry Conference in Galveston on March 24th. You see the breakdown The total is $4,068. This is actually a donation that is put through the Education Foundation and then comes back around through to the district. How do you say that company? Chemours?
Chemours.
Is it Chemours? Okay, I was thinking so, but I didn't want to say it incorrectly. Chemours Company actually donated the funds to the Education Foundation that then it will be turning around and donating it to the district for this trip. So per policy, we bring donations that are specified for a certain use. We bring those to you for approval.
Anybody got any questions or comments on that?
Are they sponsoring the conference? Comores?
They're giving the $4,068 so that the students can go.
And I think what they're looking for is get the girls here to go because they need more women in industry. That's the initiative they're trying to be behind. So by them going to this conference, the girls that go will hopefully turn out to go into industry in some of the higher positions because that's what they're trying to look
The
for.
grant is actually from them into the Education Foundation.
And I actually work for them, so I'm gonna have to decline on, or not
Okay.
participate in this vote.
Okay, do I hear a motion to, can we do that? Because we got 3. Is that a quorum? Do we need 4 to vote? Okay, the majority present. Okay, gotcha. I'm just making sure we're right before we move on. Okay, do I have a motion to consider an approved grant for the Aransas Pass IAD Education Foundation students to attend the Women's and Industry Conference?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Butler, Mr. Rector. I'm sorry.
Second by Ms.
Second by Mrs. Butler. I know you had to second it, so got ahead of myself. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Ayes got it. Okay, next on the agenda is consider an approved budget amendment for Restart Grant.
This
go.
now we're getting into what we've already discussed. This is the first one. This is the $342,523 for the Restart Grant that we'd like to have we're going to move into fund balance.
Any discussion on that?
So the plans and the things that were identified to utilize these funds initially, we're just going to put those on hold?
I for the moment, until I find some more money, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay.
But I'm not giving up.
Just want to retain that, all that.
Yes, no, we
Legwork and
we need
research
to,
done.
we still need to do that. It's
Okay.
just, we're gonna have to just take a step back
Okay.
and rethink.
All right.
Well, and hopefully some of the FEMA money will come in, you know, that was out there, and we'll have, that'll go back into fund balance, and hopefully some benefactor out there that's listening to us, or some big company that
Yes, we'll be
has
glad to put the name
has
on
some
a
money,
building,
wants to
whatever.
donate to that, we'd be more than happy to accept it. So
We will take money.
yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Do I hear a motion to consider and approve the budget amendment for Restart Grant? So moved by Mr. Diostis. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Butler. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay,
Say
next
Mr.
on the
Butler.
agenda is consider and approve budget amendment for unspent obligated funds. Ms. Cook, again,
This is the building construction and improvements, the $1.2 million for the athletic complex that was put back into fund balance, and we need you to pull it back over so we can
Pay
pay our
bills.
obligations,
pay the bills, right?
pay our bills.
Okay. Anybody got any questions on that?
So this go around, just so it doesn't have to go back, we anticipate that we will go ahead and expend all of this for the remaining.
This should take care of
Invoices on the
everything
projects.
that is owed for the construction.
Okay.
And we've got a,
We'd love it if we end with some money left on the table. I mean, that'd be a great amendment to come back and put it back in fund balance, but we, hopefully we will be that lucky.
and just for clarification, we got a kind of written agreement with them for the punch list. So we got this items that's still there. They're gonna, even though we're gonna pay them off, they're gonna come back and fix those,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes.
so we will make sure that everybody realizes the fact we're not paying them. We do have written agreements with them that they're obligated to fix what those things are wrong. So we identified. So again, anybody else got any questions? Okay, do I have a motion to consider and approve budget amendment for unspent obligated funds? So moved by Mr. Diostis. Here, a second?
Oh, second.
Second by Mrs. Butler. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody disagree? Ayes got it.
And we're finally to that, oh, sorry.
Right, are we there yet? Almost.
Yeah.
Okay, item K,
That's what I was
consider,
trying to-
consider and approve property and casualty insurance renewal. All right. Woo-hoo. We're there. Thank, thanks, Chase. Thanks for hanging around. Yeah, Ms. Cook told you to show up late. You didn't know you could have went home for another hour, right?
Thank you.
Okay. So do you have anything to add to what's already been said there, Chase?
No, I think they did an excellent job in their analysis, though. That was pretty impressive, and that was an excellent way to look at it. I think everybody's right on track. I think Officer did a good job because people had some very good comments tonight about the program that we discussed last week. Everybody, I think, understands it. So one of the things that we discussed last week we're pulling out some of the options. I think you'll have this in your packet, but I also put it in the folder if you want to look at actual paper copy. So like Ms. Cook said, the options that we are considering are the $35 million loss limit and the $50 million loss limit with either a 3% or a 5% deductible. So option 1 and 2 are your $35 million options. Option 1 is the 3%. Option 2 is the 5%. The dollar number underneath the item there that says 3% named storm or 5% named storm is the actual dollar amount of that deductible should we have a catastrophic disaster, which was reflected in her report earlier. And then at the very bottom, you did ask for us to put the difference in the premiums between the four options based on what we paid last year. And again, as she explained, that does differ because they did budget 10% more than what we were showing for the expiring year. The last thing that we did add were some of those acronyms that we insurance people like to throw out that never make any sense to anybody. So we did put some definitions on there. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. Any questions on any of that or what we want to talk about tonight?
Just, last week's schedule had a line item, cyber.
You're right, it did.
Yes, cyber at $3,742.
Yeah, I do remember that. You're right.
That coverage.
You have that old one? Here, I think I've got mine in here and get it for you.
I got one here somewhere.
The only thing I would say on that is she may have moved it into our property premium.
Okay, because one of the
If not-
prior years it did say included, so I just wanted to make sure that we have it, whether it's at an additional cost or not.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So basically, it's included in option 1.
Yeah, it was,
Right, but last week they had it as a separate line item.
Yeah.
Last week's schedule.
let me look at something real quick. See what's in this packet. You know, that actually may have been a typo on that, to be honest with you, because we do have, and to the back of y'all's packet, there's a handful of papers that look like this.
Okay.
This is the actual full proposal of what we talk about with administration.
Okay.
And if you do look on the back of the first page, you do have, towards the bottom in the yellow, it does say cyber suite coverage. So we do
Yeah.
have $100,000 worth of coverage.
It's in
built
this
into the
one.
program
Oh,
already.
that one. Okay. I just want to make sure we
So,
have it.
I'll have to confirm with Crystal, my assistant, tomorrow morning, just to make sure that's accurate, but I do know we do have it built in to the pricing right now.
Okay.
And that was you said $100,000
Yes,
coverage?
sir. Not enough, but
Well, I was gonna say, if we get hacked in and fry our servers, it's gonna cost a lot more than that. So I've heard districts, it could run up to the millions of dollars to do some of the stuff when they get hacked in, it fries and they destroy everything. So, but it is what it is.
$1,000 real quick.
Yeah, you'd be paying an astronomical premium to raise it up any higher. So
Now it's probably not the time to be trying to sell more insurance, though.
Well,
Probably not. Good observation.
And Ms. Cook, do you have a recommendation for the option?
Oh, can put me on the spot.
Well, I just,
My
yeah.
recommendation after looking at this now for over a week is I would definitely go with one of the 3% deductible. I do.
Option 1 or option 3, right?
Option 1 or 3, because a 5% deductible from the spreadsheet I showed you earlier, to have that kind of funding in fund balance anytime soon will be very difficult and put us in jeopardy of, so I think, the best thing is to pay a little more on the premium on the front side, get the 3%, whether you want to do it on the 35 or the 50. There's not a whole, well, there is about, $200,000 difference in the premium. So I think that's where I would look at 1 or 3.
Yeah.
And Cheryl and I discussed that too. That's pretty much where we both.
So basically, we'd have to come up with additional, or we already got a budget, we'd have to come up with 309,000 or 549,000 for option 1 and 3. Is additional funds for the budget, is that
No,
right?
you'll have to come up with, so back on this spreadsheet, option 1, we'd have $269,089. Option 3, $509,508.
That's a little different than what he has on his spreadsheet, if I'm looking at the right.
Yeah, so my difference numbers are the difference of the premium versus what the expiring premium was.
Right.
Y'all's budget, they had budgeted.
That's the
Oh, we
budget,
got the
remember?
extra.
Yes.
You're talking off the budget.
Yes,
okay.
I'm
So,
talking
so
about
yeah,
what
so
we
you're talking
have-
about the
what
budget
we
right now, and
actually
you're,
have to
that
take
last
out of
year,
fund
got
balance,
you.
yes.
So that's the difference, all right,
Yes.
all right, no problem, all right. Answer my questions. So, anybody else got any more questions?
I have a question about, earlier I think it's called property schedule, where it listed our assets, all the buildings and facilities. Oh, you have an updated one? Okay.
In the packet that he, the
Yes.
proposal.
Okay.
So
It's in
that's
here.
on towards the back of that packet.
There it
See
is.
some that look like these spreadsheets. We've got one with all your building assets, and then there should be one with all your vehicles as well.
So that's well within our 92 million
Yeah,
value.
so what we did change, from last time I was here, yes, everybody's aware of this, Cheryl just went.
Walter Noble.
Walter Noble, building that apparently, I guess was being not used right now, it's gonna be demolished. That was listed on the schedule for $1.7 million. So we removed that off the insurance, and then there was an addition of 1.8-ish, 1.9 of additional assets from the softball and baseball facility that y'all have built. They kind of substituted those. So I think total net, there was about $130,000 of increase of values on that 92 million. So it was almost a wash though.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, I talked to you about this prior to the schedule you guys had previously. We saw it didn't have a lot of the improvements we made on the softball field and the football field and the new ticket gate and all that kind of stuff. And so that's included now into it. So we're good to cover if we have some damage to what we built, we'll cover it. So we're good.
Yes.
Okay, so now we got to consider between, anybody having, when I make a motion, yes, ma'am.
Just a couple of items that I didn't see, and I'm trying to scroll through on the new list real quick. But we talked about fencing of the other, like football, baseball, softball. We didn't have on here the tennis court fencing, the tennis courts bleachers, which are 2. And then I had a question, because we list just the courts. But for the other sports, we also included bleachers. And so now there are 2 sets of bleachers over there at the tennis courts. And we would want to replace the fencing as well, wouldn't we? So,
I mean, we can add whatever you want. We just use what's given to us, basically. So, if we're missing some fences or something like that, Cheryl, I can get with you, we can add that to that. I'm sure they're nominal valued items.
They probably are. And the bleachers you're talking about are portable bleachers that we had extra bleachers over the softball field and the baseball field that when we did the new bleachers over there, we moved them over to
Right.
use them as tennis courts. So So again, those have been around for a while, so.
The other thing I would say about that is, we do use a third party, called Edwards Risk Management, and they do our property valuations, so they look at our schedules every year and make sure that our values are staying in line with the cost of construction. They will also, when we write a new account, they go out and they do a full audit of all the assets, and we have not done it here in a number of years, probably since before
Oh.
Harvey. So I
Okay.
did mention to, Ms. Stansberry that I would like to get them back out here this policy year, because we do have some new stuff that I do want them to diagram, take pictures. They diagram everything, measure it, take pictures, and they put it in a big binder or thumb drive, however you prefer, so that we keep all that updated. And we have not done that in a few years, so I think this year, we had discussed this prior to this meeting, that they need to come back out here.
And that's probably pretty
Update
good,
that file.
pretty good idea since we got a lot of new things.
They'll find stuff such as the bleachers at the tennis courts, et cetera, that are not on the schedule.
And then I had a question
As long as
about,
we're not missing any schools or
no, the gym.
laugh, but that happens.
Okay, so Key Burger is listed once as Key Burger Main, but does that include the gym that's not really attached to
That is included.
where we have the gym
It is
slash
in there.
welding?
I specifically asked about the Key Burger gym. It is in there, in part of the, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, but that's what I'm saying, since it's not, you have to leave it and walk out, and so I didn't know if it
It is-
included.
They rolled it into the cost of the main, so it's
Okay.
all one.
Okay,
Because now the gym's where the welding shop's at, right? So it's not being utilized as a gym anymore. It's being utilized as part of the facilities, so. Any other questions?
okay, so whatever option we vote on tonight, and even though we have the schedule that shows the valuation of properties, this list as of the 11th, it's going to be updated, so we capture all of our improvements.
Yes.
Okay,
So this list, actually, if you look at the bottom of it, it says the field date was June 18th, 2020. That was the last time somebody was probably on property on the campuses
Okay.
reviewing everything. The list was updated recently, I think we sent out our list, I can't recall. We sent it out probably in December and asked for our members to update their property schedules, make sure everything looks accurate.
okay.
But yes,
And I'm
Edwards,
sorry, the
when
one,
when they do come out, they will take your current schedule, but they will go around and make sure that there's nothing that they see out there that's not on here or in their pictures.
Make sure we got covered on everything.
yes, I'm sorry, because I just,
okay.
it said
Is-
property schedule
is-
as of January 14th, 2022, so I thought, oh, this is it, and so
Hey,
I
that's
didn't
good.
see the welding and
I mean, those are
all
good
that.
questions. We need to know before we
want
vote.
to make sure that that's part of our contents with all that new equipment
Yes.
there and so forth. All right.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, the last thing we want to do is have some loss and say, well, it's not on the schedule.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make a motion that we vote on option one, okay? Because that's the least costly in that. And again, you know, in the future, if we want to make a different option, we can renegotiate the terms, whatever else. But again, that's the one that's the least costly, and we're looking at a budget, so we don't, you know, so that'll get us through to cover any type of event that we have, to get us through that, to pay, you know, pay for the insurance wise, to make sure we don't lose anything and can stay operation and build back what's lost. So, that's where, and if that doesn't pass, we'll go to option three, which is what that's a little higher value, but we'll talk, you know, we'll vote on that one. So again, I'm gonna read, do I have a motion to consider and approve property and casualty insurance for option one? So moved by Mrs. Diaz, second by Mr. Director. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, carries.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got option one.
Okay, sounds good. And now we all
Thank you.
pray we have no hurricanes.
Yes.
Yeah, for everybody, you know.
No idea. how
And
we're
that,
going to pray.
but again, we're covered if we do have one, but we just pray we don't have it, so we don't have to go through that again.
Then if we
Yeah.
don't, then hopefully your fund balance will be better because we didn't have to pay a deductible.
Yep.
And thank you for working up the numbers again. I mean, last week we had 25 million and 50, and
Sure.
we asked for
Yeah.
the 35, and
That's our
appreciate you
job.
doing
We
that.
appreciate it.
And Chase, we do appreciate you staying for so long for the meeting, because you're last, almost the last thing on the agenda, but and I think Ms. Cook did that on purpose.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Item L, consider and approve budget amendment on property insurance option approved, which was option 1. So that's what we're going to vote on. So anybody have any questions to that? No, we got to move the money now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we approved the option, now we got to approve the money to pay for the option. We approved it, because we couldn't approve the money until we knew what option we were going to get. Okay,
It's due March 1st, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So do I hear a motion to consider and approve the budget amendment based on the property insurance option approved, which is option 1?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Rector. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Butler. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Next item on the agenda is item 8, which is discussion, any topic for future board meetings. Does any board member have any, want to recommend any topic for any future meetings?
Nope, we've already got the goals coming.
Yeah, the goals coming and that, so I think when we set our goals, a lot of those things, I think you and I have talked about one of these that you discussed, that we can cover those in the goal settings, okay?
Right.
So again, now we move on to item X, is convene an executive session. And Ms. Cook, do we have an executive session? Nope.
No,
And I don't
sir.
have anything to bring in an executive session.
That's my Valentine's Day
So
present.
now, next on the item is what everybody's been waiting for. Okay, the time is now 9:06. With no other business for the board, I adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.